Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you. The Morning Majority, 630.
WMAL.
8:37, we're on the downhill run to 9 o'clock on the Morning Majority. Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman's off. It was great to have Juan Williams in here. What a nice fella. I mean, really, what you see is what you get with Juan. He really is one of the most decent people I've ever come across.
It's a very un-Washington thing.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get.
Hey, Larry Kudlow is standing by now on the line. He's the host, of course, of the Kudlow Report, and the Call on CNBC, and the Larry Kudlow Show on WMAL. He's a very busy man, but taking time out of his busy schedule to sort of inform and enlighten us. Larry, we have a deal. The House has passed it. Looks like it's going through the Senate today. What do you think about it?
Well, I think it's a pretty good beginning. I interviewed Senator Mitch McConnell last night, and that was his take, that it's a good first step. And I agree with that flaws and all, what you have is, in broad outline, a decline in spending and no tax increases. And you have also what could be a sleeper in the Phase 2, the super committee they're going to put together. You just might get some pro-growth tax reform, which would not be taxing rich people like President Obama keeps talking about, but would actually reduce marginal tax rates across the board for individuals and corporations and clean up some of the deductions so you'd have a flatter, simplified code. That's a sleeper in here. Senator McConnell told me in our interview that he thought that was going to be a very important part. So all I'll say is this is a good beginning. It does not solve our debt problems. It does not solve our budget problems.
No.
But on the whole, I like it. And you know what? I'm going to write a piece up today when I get back to New York. I think it's going to be very bullish for the stock market. I think it's going to wind up being very bullish for the stock market with default completely off the board and a big Tea Party victory on smaller government and lower spending.
So what do you think is, at first, what is going to be the response today with Wall Street, having seen that it went through the House and having seen that it's probably going to go through the Senate? What's that going to be? And long term, do you think that the rating agencies will go ahead and downgrade from AAA?
Well, the first question is, I think markets like this deal, and there's no default. That was the most important priority, no default on Treasury debt. Now, yesterday the market went up 150 points, but the market is also worried about the lousy economy. And when the ISM manufacturing report came in really weak, the worst in 2 years, stocks wound up selling off for the day, although they came back at the end. So Wall Street is fighting the economy. On the second point on the rating agencies, I honestly don't know. I think, just as a hunch, they are likely to keep the U.S. story on what they call a negative credit watch. And I think they will want to see how the super committee plays out in enforcing the deal, whether you get all the $2.5 trillion or not, and what kind of reforms are made. I mean, in their terms, the deal's a little thin, because S&P and Moody's, I believe, talked about a $4 trillion deal. So you're talking about a $2 to $2.5 trillion deal, and that could lead to a default. To a downgrade. That's possible. But I think they're going to hold their powder. That'd be my guess until they see how this thing plays out. Probably keep us on this negative credit watch.
And then the ratings agencies could end up being extra political pressure to actually get cuts out of that commission.
Well, I agree with that, Mary Catherine. I always have, because it was hard to find. I mean, besides the Tea Party politically, it was hard to find a financial group that was really holding their feet to the fire. You had a lot of wusses on Wall Street who were saying, do anything, just don't default on the interest expense on the debt. But that was never the question. The question was the policies behind that. So in some sense, you're right. The credit guys could keep the heat on for the deal to consummate it properly.
Well, what I've been asking everybody is sort of, I look at this and everybody breathes a sigh of relief and we're moving on, right? But in a couple months, we're just going to have another fight over the commission, or, and it's going to keep going on like this if we're actually going to tackle what is a very hard problem and people with very entrenched interests. Can the market sort of sustain that? I mean, I know it's been rough for them. The uncertainty's rough, and it's going to keep being that way, I feel like.
Look, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. I mean, the next battle is the 2012 budget, right? We've got to start October 1st. We need a budget. I'm going to guess, and I listened to Paul Ryan, who was on TV last night. He didn't really play his hand, but I'm going to guess that a continuing resolution may develop to fund the government in the early part of fiscal 2012, which starts October 1st. I'm okay with that because I think that Ryan will drive the process not only to keep the spending caps in place, but to keep them in place all year and to maybe spread those spending caps out as far as he can spread them. So you've got a $25 billion decline in the level of the budget. That's the level for 2012 for discretionary accounts. All right, that has to be maintained. And then the question is, what are you going to do about the mandatory accounts and some of those in between? So I think that the battle will go on. I think it should go on. And, I think that yesterday we really did change the game. I think the game was changed yesterday. Future debt ceilings are going to be part of the budget. The spending caps are going to be part of the budget. We're not going to go back to the old ways. The appropriation committees are going to lose a lot of their power.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of momentum here to do good. Again, the numbers are not as good as I want them to be, but I like what's happening in the process. And I agree with McConnell, again, what Senator McConnell said. We're setting a new template here.
Right.
And I think that's very important. I call it a Tea Party template.
All right, I got a one-word answer from you on this because we're running out of time. Who was the big winner?
Oh, I got to believe the Tea Party was the big winner. I think the Tea Party was absolutely the big winner. Yeah. And then I think to a lesser extent, Speaker Boehner and Senator McConnell were also winners. I think that Harry Reid was a quasi-winner for his no tax pledge. I think that was pretty good. And I think Speaker Boehner, who negotiated a good plan at the end, is also a winner. I think President Obama is a clear loser here. They just left him in the dust on taxes.
Well, thanks
almost a bystander.
Right. Well, thanks so much, Larry. I'm enjoying the Tea Party template moving forward. 6:44 on WMAL.